Senator John Kennedy, thank you for joining Podforce One.
Thank you.
I'll just go through quickly your very impressive resume. You're a lawyer, you're a former state treasurer, you're the Senate's master of the mic drop moment, born in 1951 in Centerville, Mississippi, raised in small town Zachary, Louisiana. You graduated top of your class at Vanderbilt University, were senior class president, earned a law degree from the University of Virginia, and then you went to Oxford University where you did your postgraduate degree. Elected to the US Senate in 2016, the same night as Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But you had been for a long time a Democrat. So we'll talk about that later because that's an interesting transition. Married to your wife, Becky, for 35 years. Your favorite pastimes are fly fishing and duck hunting.
This is an ego-driven shutdown. It's politics. Here's what happened. The country was rocking along, minding its own business. Our budget ran out at midnight. We knew it was going to run out. So we've been talking to the Democrats about just extending the negotiations for a new budget for 6 or 7 weeks. No strings attached. Just let's keep talking, but keep the government open. And the Democrats stepped up and said, we will vote no. We're going to shut her all down unless you give us $1.5 trillion. And we're going to tell you how to spend it. Well, I mean, our heads snapped back, and I thought, my mama did not raise a fool. And if she did, it was one of my 3 brothers. And I'm not voting for this. And every Republican said, are you kidding me? So that's why we're in a shutdown. It's really about, but it's not about the money. It's also about politics, which I'll be glad to go into if you want.
Apart from the shutdown, what else is irredeemably stupid in Washington?
Well, common sense is illegal. And the problem you've got, and I'll tie it again to the shutdown. This shutdown will not end until 60 U.S. senators take their egos out back and shoot them.
Right.
Because this is all ego-driven. For example, it's not all his fault, but he deserves a lot of the blame. Senator Schumer is worried about his personal politics in New York.
With AOC nipping at his heels.
I mean, his numbers, his poll numbers for his reelection are on a journey to the center of the earth. The loon wing or the progressive wing or the socialist wing, whatever you want to call it, of the Democratic Party is mad at him. They don't love him. Chuck wants them to love him. They'll never love him. And because they're run by Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, and she's probably going to run against Chuck. Now, I'm not saying that's the entire reason.
She might run for president.
But she could run for president. But that's driving a lot of this. The Democrat, my party, all parties change.
Yeah.
My party, Republican Party, has changed. But the Democratic Party is in a fight for its soul.
It's in a civil war, isn't it?
And the loon wing, as I call it, or if you want to be polite, the socialist wing, is on the ascendancy.
Yeah.
They're about to elect a mayor, a socialist mayor of New York, which I find breathtakingly dumb.
Yeah.
But this is a democracy. People can vote how they wish. But
what's gone wrong with the Democrats? Is it Donald Trump that's made them crazy?
For one thing, they don't have leadership. If I were advising the Democrats, I'm not, and they don't want my advice, Miranda. But I really would. I would tell them to go talk to Bill Clinton. Yes. Not Joe Biden, not Barack Obama, but Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton can explain to them how what a lot of they are doing in terms of, as seen by the average American, is just stone cold crazy. I mean, open borders, belief that our kids can change genders at recess, the loon wing of the party, it hates George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson and Dr. Seuss and Mr. Potato Head. They think that they're all racist. The average American doesn't think that. And Clinton moved the party back to the middle, but they don't want to listen to him because Clinton, I don't agree with a lot of what President Clinton stands for, but he's certainly not a member of the loon wing of the party. This is going to sound strange.
His wife is.
His wife is a little to the left of Lennon, but Carville has given them advice. Now, I've known James for a long time, Carville. I knew him. I'll tell you how long I've known Carville. I knew him when he was poor. That's been a long time.
That was a long time
But Carville
ago.
is preaching the same thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, that fight's going on with the party, and that explains a lot of the shutdown.
And your Senate colleagues, I mean, it's meant to be a very collegial place. And
It is collegial compared to the House.
Right. But, I mean, you must look across the aisle at your Senate colleagues and either pity them or just marvel at their stupidity.
Well, the Senate Democrats and the Senate Republicans are different. In the Republican side, we've got 4 or 5 free-range chickens.
Right.
They'll wander off.
You're one of them, are you?
I am one, but they'll wander off.
Who are the others?
And Rand Paul. Rand's a free-range chicken.
Is Ted Cruz?
No, Cruz is not really. He can be on certain issues.
Yeah.
And I don't mean this critically. They're just independent.
I think it's a
thinkers.
positive.
Susan Collins is another one. Mitch can be, since he's no longer majority leader.
Right.
We don't always move in tandem. Now, that's good and bad. But the Democrats, for the most part, if what Chuck tells them to do, they do.
Right.
I don't mean any disrespect, but if
Donald Trump envies that.
Well, of course, that's all presidents want you to do what you're told. But if Chuck told some of the Democrats to go join the Taliban, they would say, "Where's the line, Mr. Leader?" But that's why we're in a shutdown.
Yeah.
And here's how it's going to end, I predict. Chuck will go to 6 or 8 of his members and say, "Look, we got to get this thing back open. So I want you to vote to open it up, but don't tell anybody I told you so. I'm going to keep voting no so I can try to save face.
Yeah.
But you vote to open it back up."
Yes.
Now, nobody will be fooled. And the risk that Senator Schumer runs by doing that, there's a fine line between looking like you're in charge and mutiny. He doesn't want it to look like a mutiny because then he looks weaker. But that's how this thing will get open because the Democrats know they're not on solid ground.
Don't you think, I mean, I hate to keep critiquing the Democratic Party, but you were a Democratic Party.
I was until
2007. Yeah.
But in Louisiana, national politics had not seeped into Louisiana. In our state at that time, most people were Democrats, but they were conservative Democrats.
Like blue dog Democrats.
Yeah. I've been fiscally conservative all my life. But then things started changing. And I looked up one day, I was a state treasurer, and all of the people that supported me and all the people who handled my legislation in the state legislature, they were Republicans.
Right.
And the Democrats would dog cuss me. And I'm a member of their party.
Right.
Because I wasn't part of the loon wing. And so I said one day, there's got to be a better way of doing this. And I just decided about 2 months before one of my reelection campaigns for treasurer, I stood up in front of God and country, people in Louisiana. I said, "Look, hey, I'm going to change parties. I want y'all all to know that. If that upsets you, you can vote against me. But that's what I'm up to." And I did. And I've never looked back.
And did any particular incident precipitate that? Like, was there a drama with someone?
Yeah, well, my Democratic colleagues stopped talking to me. For example, I would go down to the state legislature. I was constantly, I'm cheap, especially with taxpayer money. I squeak when I walk. Okay, I'm cheap. And I would go down to the legislature and try to give them ideas about how to save money. Well, my Democratic colleagues in the legislature would come up to me and they'd say, "Kennedy, what planet did you parachute in from? We're the party that likes to spend money. You need to be helping us add money." I said, "No, guys. This money didn't just fall from heaven. We thank heaven for it, but it came out of people's pockets." And we grew further and further apart, mostly on fiscal matters. And then, of course, after I switched parties, the Democrats today, I don't recognize many of them. They all this stuff about transgenderism and open borders and hatred of people, and you're a racist. if you don't agree with everything they stand for. And I think that's why their party's in trouble. I'm not saying my party's perfect, but I think this is the way most Americans look at it today. And it's why Trump was elected.
Yeah.
People look at the choice, Democrat, Republican, and they say, well, Republicans aren't perfect, but the other side's crazy.
Right.
And that's why they elected President Trump. They know all about President Trump. He's unruly. I told him one time, I said, Mr. President, your problem is you grow anxious when you have an unexpressed thought. He just says anything. He says everything. But
did you really say that?
I did say that.
And what did he say?
He was cool about it.
Yeah.
He asked me one time, he said, how do you like my tweets? And I said, well, Mr. President, don't take this the wrong way, but tweeting a little bit less would not cause brain damage. And he looked at me and said, you don't like my tweets? I said, no, I didn't say that. I said, I like steak, but I don't like 8 steaks at one time. And you can't just say everything that comes into your head. But of course he does.
Do you think it had any impact?
No, it was zero. And but the American people get it. But they think between them and Harris, it was hope versus more hurt. And that's why Trump won. Well, President Biden and I were both dog lovers, but I did. I was over at the White House for a photo op on a bill I passed. I stayed for 45 minutes, much to his staff's chagrin, and we just talked, and I got to know him a little bit. Look, we all age differently. At that point, this was in the first year of his presidency. The President Biden was very far along. Far along. Far along in terms of his age. Even then, it would, to paraphrase a former Louisiana governor, it would take him an hour and a half to watch 60 Minutes. He was just very, very slow. But he had reached the point in his life, this was early on, when I could tell all he wanted to do was sit around, tell war stories, talk about the good old days.
Self-aggrandize.
Yep. And then when he was done, he wanted some hot soup and an early bedtime.
Mm-hmm. Which is pretty much what he got.
And I figured his staff was getting maybe 4 hours, 5 hours of work out of him a day. He couldn't help it in the sense that we all age differently. We do. Mm-hmm. But he did not. I could see the beginning of his neurodegenerative disease. It got worse. His staff cleverly hid it until they couldn't anymore. He had to debate in front of God and country and the American people. And the American people saw it. Mm. And they said, look, this man is just, he's like my grandpa, who I just took the car keys away from.
But I mean, what a travesty that he was allowed to, or chosen by the Democratic Party, which knew that he had cognitive issues before he ran for president.
And we all knew it, but we couldn't, his staff would not let any of us, not just Republicans, but Democrats around him.
Or the cabinet.
Even the cabinet. They kept him totally isolated. Mm. And you could see bits and pieces of it when he would talk and sound like he was from outer space. Yeah. And my people back home in Louisiana would say, who is really the president? And I tell them the truth. Whoever the hell has control of that teleprompter.
Yes.
Because
or the auto pen.
Or the auto pen. Because all he's doing is reading and doing what he's told. Now, I'm not saying he didn't have some independent thoughts, but I don't believe he was working Miranda more than, at the end, probably 3 hours a day. And you can't do that job in 3 hours a day.
But what a catastrophe for the country that's going to take.
It was dangerous.
Dangerous. I look at what happened with the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Well, and I remember when Putin was lined up on the Ukrainian border, thinking about going in, weighing his option, watching President Biden at a short press conference say, well, if it's a small incursion, it might be okay. And I'm thinking, I'm going to say what I said. I thought, holy Moses.
That's an invitation.
That's an invitation.
But do you think that was deliberate?
I think he just started rambling. Afghanistan. He removed the sanctions on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Yeah. He removed the sanctions on Iran from selling their oil. Now, President Xi in China is working with Putin in Russia and the Ayatollah in Iran. They see all this. They're working together, and they saw a president who was not clearly in grasp, didn't have a clean grasp on all of his faculties. They saw weakness, and they made their move. And that's how Ukraine started.
And do you think also that China, because he also removed a lot of the Trump era sort of restrictions on China, for instance, stealing our intellectual property in universities and so on, he closed down those programs. I wrote The Laptop from Hell. I looked into what I saw was corruption, influence peddling, and, perhaps his selling out to China. Do you think there was anything in that? Do you think that he was doing these things just because he was randomly a Roomba wandering around aimlessly, or was there method in the madness?
I think he was getting weaker and weaker as a president, not just politically, but also physically. I think he surrounded himself with staff that were a bunch of left-leaning wokers. I think President Xi is the quarterback of all of this. Xi is working with Putin, working with the Ayatollah. Their goal was to have Russia dominate Central and Eastern Europe, the Ayatollah dominate the Middle East, China dominate the Indo-Pacific, with freedom to roam in sub-Saharan Africa and South America. And that's not a world that's safe for Americans. Now, I don't want America to be the world's policeman, Miranda, but I don't want Xi Jinping or Vladimir Putin or the Ayatollah in Iran to be either. And these are hard men. They're all men. They're hard men. Dealing with them is like hand feeding a shark. And they understand one thing. And Biden would send Sullivan and Blinken over to talk to them.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the middle of a prison riot in Ukraine, and Sullivan would go over there and try to quote Socrates to them.
Yes.
Instead of showing force. And even when Hamas attacked Israel, all Israel did, they did the right thing. Israel beat Hamas. They beat Hezbollah. They backed off Iran, and they did it with President Biden hanging all over their back, and Europe.
Yes. Saying,
stop. And Israel said, no, we're not going to stop until we kill these people who want to kill us first.
So the Israel question, we're seeing that in America, polls are showing that America, which, used to be back Israel, most Americans to the hilt, now that's softening, and especially with the younger generation. And it's over, the Hamas, the war in Gaza. Why do you think that is happening?
I think short-term opinion is mixed. But I think long-term, the American people will come to realize that the Middle East is safer because of what Israel did. Not just safer for the Israeli people. By backing off Iran is behind Hamas and Hezbollah. By backing off Iran.
Bombing its nuclear site.
Knocking out its air defenses. It's not just Israel that's safer. It's Saudi Arabia. It's Egypt.
Yeah.
It's Jordan.
Yeah.
It's all the countries. They will not say it publicly, but they're more scared of Iran, who's backed by China and Russia and North Korea, than they are of Israel. Now, I know they're unpopular in Europe and in some quarters of the United States.
Columbia University.
But I think history will prove that their actions resulted in a more stable Middle East. And I think Trump deserves a lot of credit for backing him, because President Biden didn't.
No. And what's supposed to happen to the Palestinian refugees?
Well, that's the question. I mean, if you ask Prime Minister Starmer in the UK, just came out and said, why? But we need a Palestinian state. Okay, Cinderella. Where do you want to put it?
Yeah, Liverpool?
Yeah. Who's going to run it? Are you going to let Hamas run it? What's Hezbollah's role? How are you going to keep them out without Israel involved, or some sort of police force? How are you going to keep Iran out? It's real easy for Starmer and Macron in France to go to the UN and play act and say, oh, I'm politically correct. We need a Palestinian state. But the mechanics of how to do it while really protecting the Palestinian people and having stability in the Middle East, you're not going to do it by letting the terrorists come back in. You're just not. These people are crazy. They hate their religion. The zealots, not all members of the Muslim faith, but the radical Muslim faith, but the radicalized part of Islam. They hate Americans. They hate Jews. They want to kill us and drink our blood out of a boot.
And yet they're allied with the Queers for Palestine and the far left.
They're allied with many people in Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, Starmer and Macron and the Prime Minister of Canada, they think the way you deal with the terrorists is give them a cup of hot cocoa and a hug.
But aren't they doing that for political domestic
A lot of
purposes?
it is.
Because they've got so many
But that's
Muslims
not leadership.
there?
Leadership is telling the people the truth. When I vote in the Senate, here's how I vote. I vote like I think my people back home would want me to vote, or how I think they would want me to vote if they have the same information I do, Miranda. Now, a lot of times they don't have the same information that I do. So when I vote, they'll say, oh, we don't like that vote. I've got to go explain to them. Let me tell you what's really going on. And sometimes some people still stay mad at it.
And what
that's called leadership.
How do they feel about, for instance, your diehard support for Ukraine?
Some of them like it. Some of them don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a guy text me the other day. He said, Kennedy, you're wrong on Ukraine. And by the way, I watched it on TV. You look like my second wife. I said, that's a pretty good cut, But I'll probably, a lot of my people disagree with me on Ukraine.
Yeah.
But they don't see what I'm saying. It's not just Putin. It's Xi.
Yes.
It's the Ayatollah. It's North Korea.
Yeah.
I've been to China many times. I've met with President Xi. Here's what they think. They think America is in decline. They think they're in the ascendancy. While they built a ship, a boat, and a nuclear weapon while you and I have been talking. And they look at America, and what do they see in America? They see Americans debating whether a man can breastfeed.
Yes.
And they go,
Chest feed.
Yeah. Whether a man can breastfeed. Like that's subject to debate in all these culture wars. And they're convinced, they take the long view, but they're convinced that they're rising, America's declining. We've got to show them they're wrong. But she is calling a lot of, she could end that war in Ukraine and settle the Middle East tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Really?
All he'd have to do is call Putin and say, Putin, I want it stopped. And if Putin says, no, all she will say, look, I don't mean to embarrass you, but if you don't stop it, I'll punish you the rest of your natural life and you won't be running Russia anymore. And he would stop. Same thing with Iran. He can back them off in a phone call. But I'm telling you, I've seen the classified and unclassified information. He's behind a lot of this. And it started when President Obama drew a red line in Syria and Assad crossed it. It started when President Obama let Russia take Crimea. You think Russia didn't check with President Xi in China before he did that? And then it accelerated under President Biden.
And under Donald Trump, there was no incursions. There were no border invasions.
They're scared of Trump.
Iran was broke.
They're scared of Trump.
Right.
And you ask why. I'll tell you why. So best example I can think of. Nolan Ryan, great pitcher, unbelievable fastball, strikeout king, still major league strikeout record.
What's his name?
Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan.
Okay. He most people know him because he has the most strikeouts in history. But what people also don't know is he hit 178 batters.
Right.
So what was his edge? The batters thought he was crazy. They didn't know whether he was going to throw a strike or throw at their head. Right. And it gave him a little bit of edge.
Yeah.
And that's what President Trump is like. He's unpredictable. And when he backed Israel and he went in and they took out those nuclear facilities in Iran, that alone made the world a much safer place. Because our enemies thought, whoa, this man will kill you and hurt you the entire time you're dying if you push him too far. If Biden had done that, we could have had peace a lot sooner, but it was never going to happen under President Biden.
And within the Republican Party, there is this tension.
New York Post, right here.
New York Post.
To the New York Post.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Water in there, of course, not good old Louisiana potion. What is your potion there?
Well, I'm a Scotchman myself, but we will drink just about anything. And we in Louisiana, I'm very proud of this. We eat things that you would call an exterminator for to get out of your backyard. We know how to cook it.
You eat alligator, don't you?
We eat alligator. We'll eat anything that won't eat us first.
Right. Sounds like Australia.
And sometimes if we can kill it, we'll eat it.
Back to the collegiate form of the Senate, but you've never seen him vomit in a fish tank.
I love Lindsey. I've seen him have a few cocktails. I love Lindsey, and I respect.
What's he like when he's had a few cocktails?
He's sort of like Lindsey on steroids. You know,
he's already on steroids.
Lindsey's very smart. He's sometimes wrong, but he's never in doubt. He's close to the president, but he and the president don't agree on everything.
No.
They really don't. They argue a lot. President Trump's very accessible, and I don't abuse that privilege. I might talk to the president once a week. If I called him right now and he was free, he'd pick up. Lindsey talks to him all the time.
Right. Always abuses the privilege.
Oh, yeah, of course, and keeps the president, trying to convince the president to see it his way.
Yeah.
But I respect that about Lindsey. He's one of the characters on the Republican side. Somebody asked me one time to describe Chuck, and I said, well, imagine a 5-year-old in a Batman costume after Halloween with a bunch of sugar in it. I mean, Chuck is very manic. He's very animated. But I don't hate any of my colleagues. I don't hate anybody. When I say my prayers, I ask God, don't let me hate. Because if you start hating, it's time to stop serving.
Right.
It's true.
And who of your colleagues do you think is the weirdest or the dumbest? And who do you think surprised you and was smart?
This is the honest to God's truth, right? I haven't met a dummy yet in the United States Senate.
Really?
No, I really haven't.
Could you say the same thing for the House?
Well, I don't know many of the House members.
Right.
I didn't serve in the House and I didn't go there.
Right.
Now, there are some senators who work very, very hard, and to do the job correctly, to make a correct decision on policy and to shape policy, you have to spend an enormous time studying policy. There are some senators on both sides of the aisle that don't spend a lot of time doing it. If you want to, you can skate. You can get by on a 2-page memo from your staff.
But you don't do that.
That's not my way. Look, I ran 3 times to get to the United States Senate. I got the living hell beat out of me twice. It was close, but I got beat.
Why did you want to do that?
Because
you're a successful lawyer.
This is going to sound weird. I made a good living practicing law and teaching law school. But I had I had to study things and learn things when I practiced law that my clients wanted me to study and learn, whether I liked it or not. In the Senate, I'm a free man.
Right.
I love policy. If I want to learn about the chronic disease management program in Medicaid in Florida, I can do it.
So what interests you then in policy? Foreign policy?
Foreign policy. I read The Economist, for example, cover to cover every week. It's a plod sometimes.
And you're on the Appropriations Committee?
I'm on the Appropriations Committee, healthcare, obviously. I'm fascinated by monetary and fiscal policy, not just at the macro level, but the micro level.
So are we ever going to balance the budget? Are we ever going to pay down the debt?
Well, as soon as there's the will.
Well, Donald Trump seems to think he can do it with tariffs and...
Well, right now, there's not the political will. And the president, even though the president is stretching his powers, It's still ultimately up to Congress. And I can tell you, because I sit on appropriations, Congress, and this includes Democrats and more Republicans than you think, their favorite type of spending is more.
Right.
Okay?
Pork barreling in their
I
own
have
district.
heard Republican senators, I'm not going to give you their name because I still serve with them, stand up and say, nobody ever got beat in an election by spending money. I've heard Republicans say that.
I guess that's true.
That's how we ended up, though, with $37 trillion in debt. And you want to know why inflation has not gone back to 2%? It's because Congress keeps spending money, which stimulates, it's a fiscal stimulus for the economy. You don't want to know why long-term rates have not come down? Short-term rates have. But long-term rates, 10 years or more, are what really counts. You know why? Because the bond market thinks there's going to be more inflation. You know why? Because it's Congress, they think, will never, ever stop deficit spending. And it's not going to stop until members of Congress learn the magical healing power of the word no.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's everybody. I can think of 10 or 15 Republicans and maybe 1 or 2 Democrats who, if you gave them truth serum and said, please, what do you think? They would say, what I just said is right.
Yeah, yeah.
And they would be willing to do it.
Yeah.
But the rest, no. And that's frustrating.
They're addicted to the money.
My first meeting on the Appropriations Committee.
Sorry, can I ask you, are the MAGA people or the traditional conservatives more fiscally responsible? Because
probably MAGA more.
MAGA's more fiscally responsible.
But there's some people.
Why is that?
There's some people who are fiscally responsible who are not big fans of President Trump.
Who are not fiscally responsible.
Yeah. No, they're not necessarily fans of President Trump.
Oh, but
they're
are.
Still fiscally responsible.
Yeah.
But
why is MAGA more fiscally responsible?
I think because the president's talked about it.
Right.
I think because the American people who are MAGA, they understand they have to balance their budget. They understand you can't just keep charging more and more to the credit card and paying the minimum without getting in trouble.
Would you call yourself MAGA?
On some issues, yeah.
Right. But you're not ultra MAGA like Joe Biden says.
I take it issue by issue.
Right.
I'm a little like President Trump. I play outside the pocket.
Yeah.
Okay, I do. I mean, sometimes there are things I've disagreed with President Trump on, and we've talked about it. The president's never gotten mad at me. If he has, he hadn't told me. Yeah. We talk fairly frequently.
He loves you on television.
When I'm going to vote against him, I call him. I say, Mr. President, he had a bill one time. It was in his first term, and I didn't like it. And the press asked me, how do you improve the president's bill? I said, the only way I know how to improve it is with a shredder. Well, he didn't like that. He called me and we talked about it. And I said, here's why I'm against your bill, Mr. President. And he listened. He said, okay. He said, well, will you kind of hold it down a little bit? And I said, I'll do my best, Mr. President. But
this is the one big, beautiful bill.
But no, the bill was on his First Step Act.
Oh, right. First term.
Someone had talked him into passing a bill to let nonviolent federal prisoners go, let them go home. Well, I knew enough about the Bureau of Prisons and the Democrats on the show to know they were not going to let nonviolent.
No.
And I wanted to put a provision in the bill that said, look, if you're going to let somebody go without completing a sentence, you have to notify the victim.
Right.
And I couldn't get that amendment on the bill, so I voted against it. Tom Cotton and I think we're the only Republican no votes.
Good on you. That's a very sensible thing
But anyway,
to do.
the president was for it.
Yeah.
And I think he would probably rethink things today.
Yes.
But he didn't like my shredder comment.
It was very effective. I wanted to ask you about your childhood and so what makes you tick about Louisiana, and your father you describe as a sort of a Grapes of Wrath character who left home at 15 and was a janitor and dragged himself up by the bootstraps, ended up going to university, becoming an engineer, and met your mother who was from a more upmarket family, would you say?
Yeah.
So, and then they had a bunch of boys. So, and you're in the middle. Mm-hmm. So tell us, what was your childhood like?
Well, I was raised in a small town called Zachary.
How many people?
About 3,000.
Right. Everyone knew who you were?
Oh yeah, everybody knew everybody. We didn't have a town drunk. Some people would have to take turns. We were so small. But I loved high school. I'd go back in a second. I cared about two things: basketball and cheerleader.
Right.
And I wasn't very good at either one, but I had fun trying. Now, I also studied a lot. My parents insisted on it.
Right.
But I got a great foundation. My parents pushed education. I have two brothers who are doctors. I have another brother who's in commercial and political advertising. My dad had 8 brothers and sisters, Oklahoma, Depression family, left home when he was 15 to finish high school in another town, worked his way through college at the University of Oklahoma, came to Louisiana. His degree was in petroleum engineering, met my mother. We worked. Dad was in real estate and a small-time contractor. We worked for him every summer.
Was he tough?
Oh, he was tough. Mm. You know, he I don't know if I can tell the story. No, I'm not going to tell.
Go on.
Well, I remember my first day working for Dad. I was maybe 13. He lined up his crew. There were 6 or 8 carpenters, and he made me stand in front of them. And he said, "Son, every one of these men is your boss. Every single one of them." And he said, "Whatever they tell you to do, you do." He said, "If one of these men tells you to go out in the middle of the road and take a crap, you go out in the middle of the road and do it." Well, I'm hugely embarrassed.
Yes,
okay. But that kind of set the tone.
Yeah.
And like, he may be my son, but y'all work on it. And I learned how to work.
Do you do that to your son?
My son's grown, but yeah, he worked.
Right.
He worked. He had his chores.
Yes.
But Becky and I are lucky. Preston is 29 and he's just a wonderful guy. I still think of him as a kid.
Yeah.
My dad always told me, he said, "Son, you'll never know love until you have a child." It's
true.
not like the love of a spouse or a sibling or parent. I never believed him. But boy, he was right.
It's so true.
And Becky, my wife, she's not a political animal. She puts up with it.
How did you meet her?
We met in New Orleans. I was practicing law. She was practicing law. We were at the same law firm. Uh-huh. There was a nepotism rule at the firm. You couldn't date each other, so we had to keep it quiet.
Oh, which would have made it more exciting.
It made it more exciting.
Yeah.
And I left to go to work in state government, and she took a job as a family court magistrate. And so then we could date freely, and we got married. I got her drunk and she said yes. And, Becky was a Methodist. I was raised Presbyterian. My parents founded 2 Presbyterian churches. So Beck's Methodist, I'm Presbyterian. We compromised. I became a Methodist. And,
good husband.
And yes, ma'am. And we had Preston and, our world changed. I remember when Preston was about 5. 4 or 5, I came home one day and I said, "Preston, Daddy loves you." And he looked me right in the eye and he said, "No shit." And I said, "What?" And everything, Becky's Harvard. And every time I'd say something to him, he'd go, "No shit." And Becky said, "What are we going to do?" I said, "Just ignore it." And she said, "What about church?" I said, "We're not going to church, honey." And sure enough, after about 5 days, it wore off. But that's the sort of stuff. And I remember his soccer game. Anyway, I love being a dad.
Yeah, it is wonderful. It's the most important thing, isn't it?
I hope I can say shit on the radio. It's too late. I already did.
It's podcast. You can do whatever you like. So my last question is the secrets of success. You've been successful yourself and you've been around a lot of successful people. Mm-hmm. What are the secrets?
Work. I've been around a lot of people a lot smarter than me. Mm-hmm. At Oxford, for example, probably everyone in my class could spot me 10 to 50 IQ points.
Really?
Yeah, really smart people. It's the greatest university in the world. But they couldn't outwork me. And that was my secret in high school, college, law school in America, and law school there. And I've been around smart people my whole life, but there's no better recipe you've got to have a reasonable amount of firepower, intellectual firepower. But then it's all hard work. And
why could you do the hard work when others couldn't?
That's what my parents raised me.
Discipline.
My dad was my mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
I think raising 4 boys. I've got, all sending them all to college and graduate school.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have an extravagant lifestyle. I know there are a lot of times that they had to do without, but it's just, that's about 90% of life, 20% intellect and 80%, or 20% inspiration, 80% perspiration.
Yes.
I mean, your job, man. You have to work. You have to prepare.
Yeah.
Some people it comes to naturally, but I think America is the greatest country in all of human history. And a lot of politicians think it's because of the government. It's not the government. It's ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And in just about every case, they did it because they worked hard.
Mm.
And also it's the American way. Every advancement, every single one, in art, in science, in philosophy, in technology, in cooking, in golf, came when someone said, there's got to be a better way.
Right.
And I've got some ideas about that, and I'm willing to work hard to do it. That's why we're successful as a country.
Yeah.
And I mean it. I've got colleagues in the Senate that think, federal government made America great. They don't understand the America I do.
Mm.
It's ordinary people working their ass off,
Yes.
doing extraordinary things. And thank God for them.
I have to ask you one more question before I let you
Sure.
go. Was there anything at Oxford University, any English quirk that you particularly didn't like or that you loved and picked up?
Well, for one thing, generally your classes are one person. It's you and a professor. They're called dons.
One-on-one.
One-on-one. So you can't not do the reading. It's embarrassing. The other thing, a quirk, when you take your final exams, in my course, you could get an A, you could get a B, or you got a fail, F. There was no C, gentlemen, C, or D. And you had to show up at the exam room in a full black suit, a white shirt, a white tie, a graduation gown, and a mortarboard.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you're nervous to begin with. You're nervous as a pregnant nun, and you have to put on all this regalia. Now, when you start the exam, for each one of my courses, it was a 3 or 4 hour exam. You can take the gown off and you take the hat off. But you say, well, why do I have to do this? Well, Mr. Kennedy, because we've done it this way since 1400. And we're going to keep doing this way. And if you want to graduate and take this exam, this is the way you're going to do it.
It's wonderful.
It's a great university.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. We've got great universities in America, but
you did learn how to take a bath instead of a shower.
I did. The British, I don't know about today, but the British kids, they don't like to take showers, they take baths.
They don't take them very often, though.
No,
I think you were
especially
unusual.
in college. Well,
you took them every day.
I had gone through law school in America. I took a shower.
You were clean, yes.
And so it would be cold outside. You'd have to get dressed, leave your room, walk across the quad, get undressed, take a bath, get dressed again, walk back, go to another bathroom.
And it was cold.
And shave, and it was cold.
Yeah.
And I would sleep, because Oxford, the place was built in like 1300, which wasn't insulated. I would sleep with 4 blankets and long underwear and a ski cap.
What a sight.
And I would wake up sometime in the morning with ice in my water glass. Now, the dining rooms were heated and the libraries were heated, but that was just the way UK was in the 1970s.
And it still is in some ways.
Yeah. Yep. And the food sucked.
Yeah,
I mean, look, I love the British people, but the food was horrible.
Yes.
I lived off Kit Kat bars.
Thank you very much, Senator
Miranda,
Kennedy.
thank you.
Great to talk to you.
Yeah. This is fun. Pay your taxes now. We need the money.
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay. Thank you.
That was a joke that you used to tell. Who did you tell that to and they laughed? Oh, Mitch McConnell, I think.
Yeah, Mitch. Mitch's IQ, what you have to understand about Mitch, his IQ is 70 over 40. I mean, his blood pressure is 70 over 40.
Right. What does that
Okay.
mean? He's
That means
always up.
He's
Cool.
always. I saw him smile
Like a
once
lizard.
in 2017.
Yeah.
Okay, he's just very even
calm.
keeled.
Right.
And if you ask Mitch something, I love Mitch, but if you ask me something and he doesn't want to answer it, he'll pretend to be deaf.
Right.
You go, what? What? And that's when. And I'm not saying his hearing is great.
Right.
Mine has gotten worse through you. But I learned early on, that's McConnell's way of saying, I don't want to answer that question.
Yes. Yeah.
Mitch was a good leader. I liked him.
It was funny.
We didn't agree a lot.
He had the mansion down the street. He and
He
Elaine.
does. I lived in a little cheap apartment, and he and Elaine, God bless them, they deserve it. They have a nice little house. But you live on his street. I live on the street. So you have plenty of cops.
Right.
And when it snows, there's somebody out there at 3 a.m. making sure the
Being
snow.
the first one out.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy.
Thanks, man.